Okay, here we go. Harvest 2018 for the FFA corn plot. Leaving the driveway. Very new at this. The GoPro is a new toy for us, so bear with us, and hopefully we can tell you a little bit about the machine and what it takes to make her run. Lots of things going on. Always got to have your head on a swivel. Sorry about the screen changes. And we get going. When you go down the road with these things, you kind of do own the road. As you can see, on a side road like this, that head covers everything. And the ditches are not safe, especially this time of the year. You don't know what's slippery and what's not, so gotta watch everything as you're going. Now here we got a car coming. This is how it gets dicey. Obviously they're looking at me and they're coming right down the middle of the bloomin' road, probably on a text or something. Get over to the edge of the road as far as I can, hopefully let them by. Being sarcastic about the texting, obviously. So, made it by them, but you can see how difficult it is to let them go by and still keep this thing safe and from rolling over. Checking my mirrors. I know you guys can't probably see that, but I'm always looking, because things sneak up on you on these things, different angles and whatnot. I see there's lights behind me, so I know somebody's coming up in the back. And we get going down the next road. I make the turn. It does have turn signals, which is helpful. Older machinery doesn't. Make sure there's nothing coming, because they absolutely will not slow down for me. And we're off. Making around the corner. I've got a little more room here. Also very nice, but again, legally, I am allowed the lane, and in season, I'm allowed over width, so it does not pay to get too far off the road, because then the people that come up behind you think they can pass. And I'll show you, I don't know if you can see this, but mailboxes stick out a long way. So if I get off too far, now they think they can pass. See, I missed that mailbox. There's a tree. But if I'm riding way out on the shoulder and I come up to a box or a sign or something, I've got to swerve out just as somebody's trying to go by me, and that's a bad situation waiting to happen. Notice, before I did turn out away from that mailbox, I did check my mirror. So just a few things to keep in mind. Okay, here's an example of what I was talking about, being too far off the edge. And people will try and pass you in a no passing zone, but look how that guardrail is. I'm running right next to her, and I still am crossing over the lane into the middle. So just got to be careful and watch. If I see somebody coming up behind me, I'm always looking. And a lot of times, if I'm lucky, the head will go over the top of the guardrail, but you can't take the chance of hooking something. You catch one of those posts, it'll tear you right down into the ditch. It'll suck you in. So, looking ahead, there's cars coming. Luckily, I'm going to be by the guardrail when they get here. And I can sneak over a little bit farther, give them just enough room so that they can get by. And that's just one more example of how challenging it is to move this stuff up and down the road. Always got to be safe. Okay, the closer we get to town, the worse it is. There's a car that's pulling out to pass me now. And they go. Now, this bridge gets a little narrow, so I've got to watch what's going on behind me. And then a couple hundred yards up the road is our driveway to go into the education plot. This is always a crowded deal right here. You got nowhere to go on a bridge. All right. Checking my mirrors, turn signal on, and making sure nobody's coming by me. And again, this is where it gets hairy. I not only have to watch what's in front of me and beside me, sometimes these tree branches or power lines stretch over the road, and sometimes they're too low and I can't get under them. So rather than have a problem, you just have to pay attention. I know you can't see where my eyes are going. If I could track that, you'd really see how much I was flipping around, and it would drive you nuts. Mailbox, tree branch, just always something. And then I gotta watch and make sure nobody's barreling around this corner ahead of me. And in the driveway. And here we are. So we're gonna go home and get some more machinery, make sure we've got everything here ready to go. And I'll come back tonight and open this up, get all the headlands off so it gives us a place to turn with the main field. And then we should be ready to go for the main part of the harvest with classes and whatever other students want to come out and help, learn about it, hang out, cook hot dogs, whatever it is. Hopefully we have a good weather day tomorrow. Okay, so here we are, pitch black, outside. As is normal with farming operations, gotta do everything when you can. So, you can't just walk into a combine and start going. There's tons of adjustments and things that have to be looked after. And the last time I used the old girl, we were doing soybeans, so there's some adjustments down in here. I don't know if you can see them. Doing my best to light it up. This is the way my life runs when it's harvest season. I'm gonna open up this front sieve a little bit. This is all part of the game plan. I gotta get the other side if I can reach it, otherwise I gotta run around to the other side. And come on, get the tool in there. And I gotta go to the other side. So that's what they call the pre-cleaner way up front. You can see hopefully you can see I'm pointing up there. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. There's all kinds of stuff going on. This is the sieve, or the chaffer, and underneath is the sieve. So there's 3 sets of screens that separate the grain from all the other junk that we don't want to keep. And I'm going to tighten this down a little bit, as long as I'm still on this side. Put the little tool in there. Take it down just a little bit so we don't get too many cobs or anything down in. That looks pretty good. That one looks a little high. Try and get it equal with the other one. If we close them up too much, the corn and the grain will shake off the back and we'll lose it, and that means we're losing money. So let's walk around to the other side. There's my little helper with me. That's Colin. Say hello, Colin.
Hi.
Colin's monitoring me on the iPad to see if there's anything we can see. Can you see anything I'm talking about, buddy?
Nope.
Nope, he says we can't see anything, so this all might be just audio. How about that?
Wait, now I can. Now I can see a lot.
We'll have to show it to you in the daylight.
Now I see you.
So up there, you can see, I don't know if you can see in resolution. We're gonna get the tool in there, and I gotta open those up just a little bit. There we go. And we're gonna try that. These are done. Down underneath looks pretty good. All right, that should be starting up. We'll go hang the tool back up. So, now we had it set up for soybeans. Again, all being done in the dark. one might almost think I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna climb up in the cab, we're gonna light him up, get the electronics working.
Yeah, this is when it gets hot.
And reset the monitor. I gotta grab the iPad. Okay, we get in the cab. I don't know if you can see any of this stuff. A lot of reflection. Okay, we have fire. I've already, correction, when I say fire, I mean obviously it started. Let's see, let's turn on some lights. Whoa, there we go.
Can you see anything?
Lights down in the front. There's our monitor. I don't know if we can read that. It's loading up the settings. Shut that off, I don't need that anymore. So we're loading the settings, giving the computer time to think. There's my last screen, if you can see what that says. So we have to adjust this. And there we go. So we're looking at all our monitors. Everything says 0. This is glitchy to say the least, because this system is a generation 2 system that is running off generation 1 sensors. So sometimes the communication doesn't work quite right. So as much as I know that may just be a big blob on there, we have it set. There we go. We're ready to start combining here, folks. So that's getting it just set up between crops, aside from changing the head and everything. So we start the machine, lots of looking around, gauges, indicators, things telling me what's happening. Let's see, we can start the header. Buzzers, all those lights mean something's not right, and that's a low shaft speed. It means we're not spinning everything fast enough to shut it off. Tells me if something goes wrong in the back. Okay, there we go. Everything is up and running. No lights. No idiot lights except the parking brake. Take the parking brake off. And let's see what happens when we pull into the field. We need to open up the concave setting a little bit, because we don't want to grind the corn up too bad. I don't know if you can see the indicator. This is all adjustments to switch from corn to beans. And your grain sample is only as good as the guy sitting in the seat. So if I do a crappy job, the FFA doesn't make as much money, and that's not good. We have a fan speed setting of 1120. That's not quite enough for corn. We're going to speed that up a little bit if it'll go. If nothing's froze up on this. 1140, 1150, 1160, 1170, 1180. We're going to try for 1200, but the belts are a little wore. We might not get it. 1180 looks like about where we're going to be. And the rest of this should go. Let's pull into the cornfield, see what happens. Probably change gears first. Okay, we're going to do our best here. I'm going to be going around the outside of the field, which means I'm going to need to see behind me. There's going to be a lot of backing up around the corners. I got to shut this off for safety reasons. I have some backup lights on the combine. They were put on because this is an older machine. They were put on after the fact, so I have to actually turn them on manually. I'm going to dive out of here. Stay there. Because if I back into something, then we're shut down for tomorrow. There we go, lights out the back. Should be able to see everything okay now. Hopefully I don't back into a tree. All right, let's try this whole gig again. Tank in. And start it all up. One switch, two switches, the alarms, throttle up, and let's see what we get for some corn out of here. My head is set kind of okay. Here's where I'm talking about. We got trees on one side, corn on the other, and my rows go that way. So we're gonna try and sneak around here without running into anything. And I'm using my mirrors a ton here. There's a lot of stuff sticking out the back. It's hard to see. So we want to slide into these 6 rows on the outside edge if possible. Sometimes we make it, sometimes we don't. There you go, we wiggled a little bit. And we are combining corn. Where it gets boring, but I'll tell you a little bit about it. The head is a mechanical wonder. It has what we call snapping rolls on it. As the corn feeds in between those divider points, the snapping rolls are rolling against each other, almost like 2 rolling pins or like a ringer on an old style washer. And they grab the corn stalk and suck it straight down through the machine, through the head. And that snaps the ears off. And hopefully, if everything works right, all we're taking into the combine are the ears. Sometimes that doesn't work quite as good as we would like. I got an adjustment that I want to make here. We're going to tighten up the deck plates, see if we can keep more corn in. And Colin, what's going on in the grain tank, buddy?
The grain tank, it is filling up.
Okay.
Because when the corn comes into the combine, it goes through a cylinder, which then goes into mirrors, right?
Well, there's a lot going on. The cylinder is what pounds the corn off the cob.
Yeah.
And then from there, it goes on to all those screens that you saw when I was adjusting back there. And all those adjustments, this is really strange. These rows don't line up. They must be goosenecked or something, because I know I didn't plant them that weird. Anyway, that's a product of having it sit out here this long. So anyway, the snapping rolls suck the stock down through. The ear hits on the deck plates, and then there's chains that gather it up. Hopefully you can see it over there on the corner where there's less material coming in. And takes just the ears in. That goes up through the feeder house underneath my feet, and then there's a big rotating cylinder. Literally pounds the snot out of the corn cobs, rolls them up through, and rubs the kernels off the cob. The kernels all fall through the screens back there, and all the little pieces of leaf and corn stalk and corn cob all get carried out the back. Now that happens several ways. The separator, they call it, the back end of me is the separator, separates the corn from the chaff. That is shaking back and forth to kind of vibrate the material out the back. And then there's also a big fan underneath that you heard me adjust earlier, and the big fan blows air up through those screens. So what exactly happens with the corn and all the pieces of leaves and stuff that go back there? The pieces of leaf and the chaff and the little pieces of stalk and corn stalk are lighter than the kernels of corn. So the small stuff, the dust and everything, gets blown out the back end and back out onto the field. And the corn is heavy and small enough that it falls down through those screens. So that's how we get it separated. Now, I don't know if we can see it. I'm going to turn around and look at the grain tank because I'm always looking around on this thing. So here's the grain tank. See the corn coming in there? Colin, can they see that?
Yeah, partly, yeah.
Okay, it's pretty bad. There we go. Gonna turn back around so I don't get off the row. And you can see the outside row, the deer and the wildlife have just pounded it out. They've eaten a lot, there's not much there. I'm gonna see if I can read off some yield numbers. As we're going across the field, this machine will keep track of where we've been by GPS. Colin says you can't see my computer monitor on the iPad. I don't know how the GoPro is picking it up. Again, this is all our first attempt at doing this. So I'm going to try and make the turn without knocking down too much grain. And obviously you can see there's trees there. Never a good idea to hit those. Messes up your day. Very expensive. Count the rows back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I always leave the outside 6 rows because as I'm going around, I never know if there's tree branches that have fallen in or anything. So this helps me to be able to work around that without knocking as much grain down on the ground when I come back around to get those outside ones. It just knocks less material down. So let's read the numbers off here if I can see them. Going across the field, this is pretty good corn on this end. We are at about 150 or 60 bushels to the acre. The moisture says 16 and a half. And it might get better than that. Headlands usually are a little bit lighter, but because we are getting donations for all this seed, we might not get a company's premier seed that they would say, oh yeah, this is the best of the best. We might only be getting, you know, their second best stuff or something that's been in the warehouse a while. Maybe it's a year old. Just not quite as good, or maybe it was a broken bag. We really aren't choosy when it comes to what we get out of our donors. We really appreciate it. Without them, this wouldn't be the profitable deal that it is. I've got some break-even analysis pages and stuff that I can go over with you in class for those of you who are in an economics class or in an agronomy class. Right now we're just talking about the mechanics of how this all works, and it is a fascinating machine. My favorite part of the farm, there's a tree branch, like I said, sticking into the corn rows. And our main goal tonight is to just get it opened up so when we get students out here actually tomorrow, we don't have all this other stuff going on and we can just get after the harvest. So there's our grain tank. As the ears are hitting the corn head, there's actually kernels that are getting knocked off the cobs. Now, if we can't maintain our settings and get that into the combine, that's all lost grain, lost money, lost profit. So we want to do everything we can to keep that. There's not very many adjustments on the head. There's some companies that are making additions and aftermarket stuff that have brushes that try and seal the corn stalk where it goes down through to catch the kernels. But unless I keep enough material going in there, some of those kernels are going to drop on the ground, and we'll be able to see that when we walk out and check our work. I've got electronic monitors that tell me that I'm doing okay, but that is no substitute for getting out, crawling on the ground, and looking for lost material or ways to improve your efficiency or improve your the capture of the grain that we're trying to get. We're coming up to another corner here. We'll get her all the way around the field, and without trying to bore you to death, I might actually shut the recording off for a little bit while I get the other outside row and get everything opened up, and then we'll be ready to go tomorrow for the main classes that come out, and hauling our grain over to the University of River Falls. They're very generous enough to buy our grain and to be able to take it from us, so it's easy for us to trucking. We actually make more money because we don't have to hire a semi to take it into a grain terminal. Always difficult going around corners, and I haven't combined for a month now, so we are getting the feel for it again. You can see we're late enough in the season where a lot of the tops are snapping off the corn, but the rest of it is still standing pretty good. That's a good thing. That's a testament to the plant breeding and the genetics. Down here on this corner is a lot of deer damage. The American farmer, especially in the upper Midwest, does his fair share for feeding the wildlife. If you look on the outside end, I'll try and show that to you when we come back around. On the outside 6 rows, crazy how much the deer can eat. And we can't get down too far into the snow because that'll plug up the machine and make a mess. So you can see I'm just trying to stay low enough so I can pick up the closest stuff to the ground, but high enough that I'm not digging in the snow. If everything is standing perfect and there's no corn on the ground or no stalks leaning over, it is always better to run the head as close to the ear as you can, because you get less damage to the ear, or less what we call header shell, less of the kernels fall off or get knocked off the corn cob as it snaps down through the snapping rolls, because there's less distance for it to accelerate before it hits what we call the deck plates. So a good operator is always watching and tweaking and listening. I have a radio in the machine, but I have never turned it on as long as I've owned this rig, because I can't hear what's going on. I listen to the machine and it tells me when something's happening, a different vibration, a squeal, a groan. Every book that I've ever read on combine operation says learn to listen, and that's what we're trying to do, learn to listen. So we'll have our first offload here because I'm 90% sure I can't make it around the other way. The auger swings out to the left. No trees over there that I know of. So we're going to come around here. These wagons are all parked haphazardly, so I have to be real careful. I always try and park them in a line so that I know exactly where they are. If I have to back up, we'll just drive around. There, we'll get some light on that. Check the grain door. That is closed. And there goes our grain. And we are putting corn in the wagon. Life is good. As of right now, with what we did, we've got a 189.4 bushel to the acre average. That's not bad on the headlands and outside rows. That'll drop down when we do the outside 6. And then hopefully we'll build it back up when we get into the middle of the field where the wildlife don't get it, don't eat as much. So this grain tank holds about 250 bushels on the combine. That wagon holds about 525, so we should be able to get 2 full dumps. I don't think I had quite a full load in the combine.
Yeah, show what happens.
But you can see it going into the wagon. And my partner says look in the grain tank, and you should be able to see it drawing out of the tank. The buzzer you hear going off is telling me that the auger is running, so I don't forget about it and just dump everything back out onto the field. And there is the empty grain tank right about now. Finished running it out of the wagon. And there we go. we're not going to get too crazy about looking at stuff tonight. Always put the auger back in so we don't hit the trees. It's never a good idea. Watching, make sure that I don't hit anything, looking at my mirrors. As I'm going across the field, I'm always looking. I can see on the ground here that you probably can't see in the definition, but I can see on the ground that the cobs look clean and the stalks look like they're relatively complete, so I'm not drawing in too much stock, not getting too much loss on the cobs. If there's still corn on the cobs, I have to adjust it some more. Being that I don't see any, and we'll check that out again here in a minute, we'll stop in the middle of the field. I'm going to actually make some more adjustments, and yeah, we're going way slow on the cylinder. That's good. I'm going to actually speed that up just a tick. There we go. 240. I don't know if you can see that or not. There we go. See all those brush? This is why I go outside first, because I have to turn and go around that. And as you can see, it's not perfect. When I turn in and out of the rows like that, I knock a bunch down that I can't get. And that outside row, if you're seeing the same stuff I'm seeing, there's nothing on it. So we're just not going to worry about damaging the machine by hitting the trees. We'll just leave that there, and there'll be a little bit there for the wildlife if there is anything there. You can see how the corn, if you're looking up ahead, you can see how as you go towards the center of the field, the stalks get taller. The trees actually take up a lot of nutrients, and water takes that away from the corn, so whatever's right next to the corn, or right next to the trees, never really does that well. On top of the fact that the critters like to just stick their head out of the woods and grab a meal. Here's our branch. This is why we did the outside 6, or the inside 6, pardon me. Now I can go around that without knocking down a whole bunch of stuff. Still going to lose a little bit on the other side. And I might come back and, yep, there it goes. Try and pick up some of that when I come back, because it's easier to come at it from the other end, the other way. We're not going to stay here too long tonight, because I want to have enough corn tomorrow. There's only 17 acres. We've done almost 2. So students that come out tomorrow through the FFA, we'll get them in here driving and let them actually harvest some. So we're just going to get nicely started tonight, and then we'll leave the rest for tomorrow. Been watching the weather. Obviously farmers live for the weather, and I might get that row. There's a few ears on there, but it looks like they're mostly chewed off. Farmers live and die by the weather. So I've been watching it. We got a chance of some rain showers tomorrow late afternoon. We're hoping to be done by then. Okay, remember we were discussing listening for stuff. I just had a belt explode on this rig. I don't know which one it is. I shut it off, I can smell it. It's up front here. Repairing the combine tomorrow morning before students get here. That should be fun. All right, done for the night. to go in first? All right.
Want it closed?
Yep. Good firm pull, because it seals up pretty tight. Too much junk under my feet, sorry. Okay, let's get out of the way here.
So is this hydrostatic?
Yeah. Everything forward motion is all right here.
Okay, so there's no clutch or anything?
Nope. Once you're in a gear on the transmission, then you've got infinite variable speed within that gear.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got shaft speed sensors. Right now it's telling me that everything is running too slow.
Yeah.
There's something going on, so once I get her...
Just because you're not moving fast.
Yep. Yeah, because the engine's not up to speed. The odd part about these guys, heat should warm up in here pretty quick. Steering from the back, you always have to remember what's off to your side when you're turning, because you'll swing the back right into the trees.
Yeah.
Late nights with not enough sleep, I've run my auger into a silo before. Nothing that $3,000 won't cure. It was painful, to say the least. So, control-wise, kind of everything you need immediately is right on the handle.
Yeah.
The raise and lower on the header is the tall button. The short button actually speeds up and slows down the whole head up front. Right now we're running 490 on the shaft speed. If I spin that up, you can see she'll go up to 700.
Yeah.
Everything is spinning way faster up front, but that's when we talk about header shell. That's a lot more violent on the crop.
Yeah.
So it's going to cause more header shell. So we don't want it running that fast, so I'm going to slow it back down. The little chirp that you hear,
Is that when it gets low enough?
yep, that's a sensor that says, okay, it's time to start recording. The computer maps out where I've been. The blue shows harvested ground, and then the numbers roll off and tell me what my yield data is as I'm going across the field. Moistures, bushels per acre, and it actually separates them: bushels per acre wet, bushels per acre dry. There's a lot of moaning and groaning going on this old girl this trip around. I don't like the sound of some of that.
No hydrostatics just usually make that kind of noise though?
Yeah, there's always a signature acoustic sound to them.
Yeah.
This is different. There's something different about it. Like last night when the belt was going bad, I knew something was not quite right. I didn't know what it was until the belt started exploding under the seat and just made all kinds of noise.
Yeah, that's not good.
What's that
How
again?
much do one of these rigs go for?
This one used right now would be probably about a $30,000 machine. Used as it sits without the head.
Yeah.
Brand new, they're 300 grand.
How much is the head?
Depending on how big and whether you get chopping heads or not, they can be $60,000 to $100,000 for something I used 2 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. But you gotta look at the other side of it. Can you imagine trying to pick all this by hand?
That's not good.
So now we're going across the field, doing about 4 miles an hour. I'm gonna stop and we're gonna look at what my job is going out the back. Always checking our work. So I stop, Just give it a minute. You look right down that row, you see the slot?
Yeah. That hold it then?
Yep, now you look at that, I can open that. See how I can open it up?
Yeah.
If I open it up that much, we're gonna lose a lot more corn down through there. Okay, so I should have a bunch of material that's come out the back and into a pile. So we're gonna back up and look at it. See the pile of corn cobs there?
Yeah.
Okay, as we look at that, what do you see?
There's some corn down there.
Not a ton, but there are some loose kernels there. You see the cob sitting right on top?
Yeah, with 2 on it.
2 kernels on it. That means I'm not threshing it hard enough. That's a setting over here. Because this corn is so dry, I opened everything up to try and minimize the grain damage. We're gonna close that up a little bit to get that, to make sure we're getting everything off the cob.
Yeah, you're about full here a little bit.
Oh no, we got a long way to go on that.
Can you go above?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Look up over your shoulder on the corner. See that window?
Yeah. Goes up there.
Yep. See right here we have, obviously there's an issue probably with the soil type, because it goes across more than just 6 rows. So it's not the hybrid. We've got so many different hybrids in here, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, one full here. How much does corn even sell for?
$3.30 a bushel right now.
So a bushel is just like a cob, basically?
A bushel is 56 pounds of shelled corn. How they came up with that historically is beyond me. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But that's what it was. So when we sell the grain, it's all by the bushel. And they weigh out the trucks when they go into the terminal, and then they divide it by 56, and that's what they pay you based on. So it ends up all being based on weight, and it's all corrected to 15% moisture. Anything over 15%, they dock you for, because they don't want to buy water weight.
Yeah.
So, and then they run into storage issues. Anything over 15% gets real marginal on how long you can store it safely without it molding. It's always amazing how easy it looks when somebody else does it, and when you actually grab the wheel,
Yeah.
it's a whole lot different. When I get some of the school board members out here, and I have done that,
Really?
and they get in behind here, they're amazed at how easy it turns. They expect it, you know, to have to wrestle the steering wheel. And they're surprised when they see me, you know, spinning the thing with one finger in the wheel. Yep. We score huge points when the school board comes out, and you guys are out here doing stuff and learning about things.
What kind of engine does this got?
What's that?
What kind of engine does this have?
This is it's the new version. It's a 7.6 liter, but it's an updated John Deere 466 cubic inch.
Yeah, I don't know John Deere very well.
There we go. There's a sensor in the tank, says it's full. You should see corn in the window back there. I have duct tape sealing up holes in the grain tank. They just developed this winter.
That works.
Oh, it's crazy. This thing has seen so much corn. So that's about 250 bushels that we just took off.
Can you make a living off just corn?
It depends on so many factors. I've got a spreadsheet. It costs me, all said and done, it costs me about $3 a bushel to produce the corn, and I get $3.30. So I'm making 30 cents of clear profit. If you can do the math real rough in your head, so what am I making, $60 an acre?
Yeah. Not much.
And then I only plant 200 acres of corn on my little farm.
You just want it below the corn at least.
Yep, as long as you're below the ears. That's the other thing. If the corn is standing beautifully, you bring the head up just under the ears, and then there's not as far for them to accelerate before they hit the plates. You'll actually knock less corn off. But we've got stuff that's laying down, so I try and be right down above the snow, but enough so that I can get underneath any of the stuff that's knocked over. This is the grain loss monitor I was talking about. It doesn't say we're losing anything out the back. That's the adjustment.
The sensor?
Yep. There, see, now it's wiggling a little bit. So I've got it set on max sensitivity. See how it dances around?
Yeah.
Some of that could be corn cobs going off the top of the machine. If I isolate the bottom of the machine with this knob, it's not saying that I'm losing any actual kernels of corn on the lower half of the machine. The machine itself is almost 40 feet long. We've only got 60 feet of headlands to turn on. So a lot of times when I'm doing this, I'll end up when I slow down, turn out away from it a little bit, hit the button to raise the head until I hear the beep that shuts off the computer recording.
Yeah.
And then we just try and make the corner, and we never can make the 6, so I usually cut in 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We take the 7th row. Okay, it's got an operator presence seat. As soon as I stand up, it's going to shut off the front, so I'm going to shut it off anyway, and we'll just switch places with you. Okay,
How do I lower this?
the center pedal there, and then just pull it into wherever you want it to be.
Yeah.
Okay, lift up on that switch, pull it up, and then push it forward. There you go. We're back in, and then you grab that, push the head down a little bit. There you go, and then forward into the corn. And you want to go down a little more.
Makes the pull, doesn't it?
There's a lot of loose wiggle room in these things. Steering linkages are, wore and loose.
Yeah, I can tell. Hardest part is just keeping it straight.
Right. You've really got about 6 inches that you can be on before you start really knocking stuff around.